During the 38 years at home, Mariam Thresia relentlessly sought to discern her vocation. Thresia, who wanted to adapt God's will in everything, prayed constantly, saying, "Lord, may your will and mine be one and the same." Conformity to the will of God from the first and to the last was the highest and the only rule she had set for her spiritual life. When she turned to a teen, she wanted to retire to the forest for the life of austerity, knowing that that was not the will of God for her. She sought entry to the religious monasteries, but she was denied. In all these she was not disappointed, but her disposition to give up her own will to follow the will of God was immune. There was nothing important for her than to say yes and wait patiently for God's Holy Spirit to manifest the yes in her life. She always said, "My life is a gift from God, and so do I. If God wills, who am I to complain? I have nothing to worry for myself." Since her childhood, she reasoned her actions as for the will of God. Once, she was healed miraculously from a deadly sickness. Her mother forced her to take food that can nourish her weak body, but she refused, saying, "It was God who gave me good health. Therefore, let us trust only in God." Conformity to the will of God is also a recurring theme in her letters written to her spiritual father. She wrote, "Right now, if this is God's will, I accept it joyfully and with great satisfaction." She also regarded the voice of her spiritual father as the voice of God, and she obeyed them without questioning. A total surrender to God or her blind obedience to the authorities, both were at times heroic. Thresia had to pay a heavy price to it. Due to the rumors that Thresia was possessed, the bishop forbade her the reception of communion for quite some time. She obeyed it and would not even heed to an angel of God who brought her communion. When it was rumored that she was eating bread and butter at home, the bishop ordered her only to take rice and gruel water. On a Christmas day, Jesus himself prepared a table with bread in it. Thresia refused to eat and wrote to Father Joseph to help her regarding this matter. After a hard struggle with the devil, she writes, "It has been God's will that I must suffer this tug of war. Let this also pass. I shall suffer all this." Each time she would only say, "Let God's will be done." When people spoke ill of her, she was resigned to God's will. She wrote, "Maybe it is God's will that people must speak ill of me. I do resign myself to it totally." In the midst of severe pain too, she was submissive. She wrote, "Today's suffering seemed to be very severe. I feel like nails piercing my joints and inside of my head being heavily drawn down. In no way I can stand up, lie or sit down. Let it be according to the holy will of God. God will grant me strength. Father, I have patience. Please pray that God's will and my will be one and the same." Her stay at home unmarried had stirred lots of ill talks. Her family members fired hard words on her. Her visit to families fetched of beam stories. Her indifference to the worldly affairs was mistaken as arrogance. Her trials were taken as evil obsessions. Her spiritual experiences were considered as hallucinations and spiritual phenomena as mental sickness. The more she tried to reach God's will, it was hard on her. The pain and suffering did not burden her spirit and body, for she trusted not on herself but God, who vested her with grace in need, empowered her mind and spirit as well. Thus she remained always calm and composed, praying and interceding constantly, disposing herself to God's will. Dear friends, for Thresia, nothing was significant than doing the will of God, and nothing pitiful than to offend God with sin. Mariam Thresia reduced herself to nothing for the greater glory of God, and God accomplished great miracles through her. He entrusted her with charism of compassionate love, with a new mission for families. Let us know more about it in the next episode. Bye then, prayers.